So you're José Monroy, and you are
Hello.
automobile racing driver, right?
Yes.
You were 4 times a national champion and once a world champion, right?
Yes, that's correct. In 2014, I've won the longest race in the world. It was 32 hours. Of course, I was not driving alone. I had a team. We were 5 drivers. I was the only Portuguese, and we won overall. So we still have that amazing record.
Okay.
The other time was in Portugal. I've won 3 times the Touring Car Championship and 1 time the GT National Championship.
Okay, and you started your career when you were 21 years old,
That's correct. Yes.
2007.
2001.
Okay.
Yes.
So we can start with a question. So first, how do you feel about being a racing driver?
So since I was a child, this start when I was a little child because my parents were already connected to the motorsport world, and I've become with him looking for some races and the rallies. So that's when start my passion. Then normally we start by karting when we are young. And I did had a karting, but my parents didn't have time to go with me to the racetrack. So that's why I only start racing when I was 21 years old. And since then, it's like it's my big passion, and I try to the hardest point to be a racing driver. It's because it's a very expensive sport, and you have to deal with the sponsors, and that's the hardest part. But as it's a strong passion, I fight every year so I can have the sponsors and keep racing. Also, what I do, as you know, I'm a racing coach, so I do race and I teach young kids and gentleman drivers to how to race in the racetracks.
Okay. So you can ask some questions.
Okay, so my first question is, what kind of racing car do you have?
So I started with, I only race 2 types of cars. The touring cars, that it's like the, for example, speaking about brands, the Honda Civic, the Seat Leon, BMW Series 3 or 3 Series. And then I also race GT cars. When we are speaking about the GT cars, the Gran Turismo, it's when we speak about the Ferraris, the Porsches, the AMGs, that kind of cars. And actually it's what I do have a Mercedes AMG GT4, and I race with that car.
Okay.
You want to ask anything else?
Okay, my second question is, how fast do you go on curves?
On curves, yes, that's correct. Normally the question is, how fast do you go on the straights? And that's not the amazing part of the racing car. So on turns, there are some corners, for example, in Portimão, in Algarve, in the Portimão racetrack, the last corner we do around 200 kilometers per hour, and it's a medium tight corner, so it's very fast. And then for you to have a comparison, in the end of the straight, we achieve around 280 kilometers per hour. So that's not a huge difference concerning we are in a straight line against a curve. But yes, there are some corners that we do pretty fast.
Okay.
Okay. I would like to ask, how does the gearbox work?
The gearbox. So nowadays we have let's say it's sequential gearbox. You know that you have 2 different kinds of gearbox: the automatic, that it's normal, the normal gearbox that we have in our day-to-day cars, and the manual gearbox. The sequential, it works more or less like a manual, but nowadays the cars, they have the pedal shifts, and sorry, they were calling me in my cell phone and the computer. Can you see me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, because I cannot see you. But okay, now it's okay. So as I was saying, the sequential gearbox it works with pedal shifts in the steering wheel. So you have the clutch to press the first gear, and then as soon as you start running the car, you don't use more the clutch. You only use the pedal shifts. So you have the right hand to shift up and the left hand to shift down. And you will only use the clutch again in first gear if you want to stop the car. The other during the lap or the practice, wherever, you only work with the gearbox with the pedal shifts without clutch.
Okay.
This of course only for the race cars, because there are some cars that we can drive with our parents that you can see the pedal shifts, but it's different. It doesn't have clutch. It's like the semi-automatic, so it's automatic, and you can change in the pedal shifts. In the race cars, it's similar, but it's like I said, like a manual gearbox, but with the pedal shifts.
But what about rally cars? Do they also use the shifts on the wheel?
Yes. So rally, it's other passion that I had. I did do some rallies, but yes. So as in the rallies, it's the same mechanism. So it's sequential, but some cars they have the like the pedal shifts in the steering wheel, but a bigger pedal shifts, because in the rallies, as you know, you work more with the steering wheel because you are normally driving and you with the sideways, so you are all time rotating the steering wheel, so you need to have a bigger pedal shift, so because you are not like this with your hands, maybe you are turning too fast the wheel, and you know that in the left and the right side of the steering wheel you have to shift up, and in the left side shift down. So normally they have like almost 160 degrees pedal shift, but it's the same mechanism. Yes.
Okay. Tell you can ask.
Okay, so my question is, how does the race, racing cars, most of them make noise. Do you know why they do?
Yes, because this has to be with the with the engine and with the exhaust, and they do noise because two things. One, it's because the exhaust, the normal exhaust from a normal car, road car, they have some parts in the middle of the exhaust that will do less noise because it's not permitted to run the car in the road with a lot of noise. But this always cuts the power of the engine. So cut the noise and cut the power. And in the racetrack, you don't want to cut the power. You want the most power that you can have. So the exhaust is completely different and doesn't have so many of that things like the catalyst. So that's why the cars do a little bit more noise. And also I think it's the other thing, it's because it makes part of a race car. Imagine, but you can have that idea when you see the electric cars racing. It's nice to see them all, but then you just don't listen nothing, and it's not the same thing. Yeah, that's why also. So the first thing is about the power, and the second one, it's nice to hear a good sound of a car.
Mm-hmm. Okay. My other question is, electric cars. Do you know how electric motors work?
Yeah, it's completely different. It's completely different as a regular fuel, a regular engine that works with the fuel, or so it's different. So do you have like an electric car that a remote with a remote control? I don't know, probably
Yes.
you had one. If you look to the engine, you have the battery that gives the energy to a small engine that works with some crafts, and that energy just put that craft rotating, and that's how it works. And a normal engine that works with fuel, it's completely different.
Okay.
How when you put the wrong fuel on the car, why does the engine break? For example, if your car works with gasoline and you by accident put petrol?
Yes, because the engine to work with gasoline, it has a different system. So it's more or less the same basic engine. You have the piston, but then you with the gasoline engine you have a spark, and that works with the fuel. When the fuel enters between the piston and the spark, it makes the combustion. So that's how it works. The petrol cars, they doesn't have the spark. They have a kind of a spark, but it's different. So because the petrol, they have more oil than the other the gasoline, and so the work system, the combustion, it's different. So that's why when you put petrol in a gasoline car or the opposite, it's better if you do that. Don't try to start the engine, otherwise the damage will be bigger.
Okay.
Do you have any more questions, Afonso?
No, you can ask another one.
Okay. My other question is, how does the back wing work?
The back wing?
Yes.
The race car, right?
Yes, race car.
The rear wing. So the rear wing works for to put some downforce in the back part of the car. So, and especially it's to so you can go in the corners faster, because so the rear wing, imagine that it's like this, it's flat, you will achieve more speed in the straight. But in the corners, the rear wing, if it's like this, doesn't work too much. Normally you see the wings like this, right? If it's like this, it will put some downforce. It means that the wind will pass here and will push the back of the car to the ground, and that allows you to go faster in the corners. So
Okay.
it's a question then that you can do a correct setting depending on the racetrack, because if you have like very fast corners, you have to have more wing. If you have not fast corners and long straights, you put less wing, so you can achieve more high speed in the straights.
Okay.
How do you make do you know how you make a car faster than another?
We are speaking about race cars. So starting that the race cars, they have or it's like all the cars are the same, or you have different categories, like for example the GT cars, where I do race, you have normally 2 or 3 categories, GT3 and GT4. But for example, GT4, you have different brands. I'm trying to explain how it works, because if you have like Mercedes, Porsche, Ferrari, you have to have the same, the regulation, it's the same for everyone. So the balance of performance can be very equal. But then you have to work in the setup of the car. So the setup, we are speaking about the wheels, for example, the wings, as we spoke about. And it's with that combination of a correct setup, depending on the racetrack, you will put your car a little bit faster, the car together with the driver, and that makes the difference. For example, Formula One, that the main manufacturers, Mercedes, Ferrari, they have, Red Bull, they have the best engines, but then they work a lot, as you can see in the aerodynamics, because they have they have a lot of aerodynamics, and that's where they can put the cars a little bit faster.
Okay.
I have another question. I don't know if it's been answered, but in a normal motor, like a fossil fuel one, how does it, like, in the inside, how does it work? Like, what's the difference between the electric, no, not the electric, the hybrid and what's it called, the fossil fuel?
Okay, so nowadays you have two different engines: the electric that we spoke already, and the ones with that use fuel, right? The hybrid, it's a mix of the two, a mix. But let's say you have both engines. You have the fuel engine where you put the gasoline and the cars works normally, and then you have a small electric engine. So the main supplier of energy, it's the fuel engine, but also have a battery with the electric engine. And normally kind of cars, you can run like 20-30 kilometers with the electric engine, yes. And then if no battery or no power in the electric engine, the combustion engine with the fuel start working, or they do like a mix. So the main one, it's the fuel one, and he has a supplier that it's electric one. When the electric one, it's not capable to put the car running, it appears the fuel engine to help the other one. That's they call hybrid. It's both engines.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Can I ask something though?
What? Sorry?
Can I ask something?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so sometimes in the fast cars, can hybrid engines be used to put more horsepower in the car if both engines work together at the same time?
Yes, and nowadays they use it a lot. They use it a similar thing in Formula One, but in the road cars, you have even sports cars. It works the same, in more or less the same, in the same situation that I just explained, but with a lot of power. For example, there is a Ferrari that it's called the 488 that has 700 horsepower. And now the new Ferrari, the same model, it's called SF90. It's the same engine with 700 horsepower and with another electrical engine with more 300 horsepower. So it means that you have 1,000 horsepower and they work together. So yes, I never drove one because they are not allowed now, are not available. But must be, you have the others. You have Porsche also, like a hybrid, and it's a lot of power. It's the most that you can explore from a fuel engine and with an electric engine and put it all together.
Okay. My last question: how does fuel make the car move?
So with some drafts, it's easier to explain to you, but when you see the engine and you know a cart, for example, when you look to a cart, you see the engine, the outside part of the engine. So inside of that, you have the piston. The piston, it's a cylinder that works. So you have the cylinder, the piston, and it works up and down.
And up. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we call the revs. When you see in your normal car 3,000 RPMs, it means the times that the piston goes up and down in a minute. So if it's 3,000 RPM, it means that during 1 minute, the piston went up and down 3,000 times. It's a lot of times. So when the piston comes up and down, at the same time, in up side of the cylinder, it goes the fuel. And then with the spark, you have a spark that with the fuel, it makes a combustion. And then it becomes an explosion. And that explosion, it goes by the exhaust. And it all happens in that small space in the top of the piston and ahead the engine where you have the spark. And then it makes the engine moves, and then you have in the back part of the piston you have another mechanical part that will rotate also and will become the power to the wheels. And that's why it's a little bit difficult to explain to you properly without showing you some images so you can understand.
Thank you.
Can you give me just 1 second, because they are just, I will bring the computer just to see. 1 second, sorry. Entra. Estejam à vontade. Pode dar à vontade. Tudo bem, fiquem fechados à porta, tá? Até já. Peço desculpa. Sorry. And I'm here again. Yes.
Harold, do you have any more questions?
Wait, I'm just looking. Oh, yes. In a racing car, I just saw this up because I'm really interested about, well, I want to know about this. What's the point of drifting?
The point is fun, only fun.
I know, yeah.
So this sport of drifting, it's becomes about fun because it's fun to drift. I think everyone that likes to drive like to drift. And then in terms of sport and competition, they have to change a lot of the car because to drift you have to, as you can see, to turn aloft the steering wheels, and they have more angle of turning. So imagine my hands, this is the steering, the wheels. Normally the car turns like this, the drift car turns like this. So you can put the car completely sideways and keep going and controlled. The intention of the drift, they have to do, it's like a game. You have the corners, and as much time as you do let's say you design the corners sideways, but properly, you gain more points. And to do this, and also in a fast time, small time, during one lap, or depends on the racetrack. That's the intention of the drift. I like to see. I already did some drift with a drift car, but to be honest, I prefer racing in the normal way.
Okay. Afonso, can I ask another question?
Yeah.
This is not about how the racing car works. It's about what you like. Are you more interested of fossil fuel cars, hybrid cars, or electric cars?
To be really honest, fast fuel cars. I was challenging to participate in electrical GT championship that was to start with a Tesla 3 years ago. Nowadays you have more than Tesla by option, but the electric cars I already drove some. They are fast, they are different because they are very quick from 0 to 100, or if you go like 120 and then you press the throttle, and the car is very fast. But the thing is that you miss two things: the gearbox, because you don't have gears to change, it's automatic, and the style of driving is completely different to race,
and also the noise.
Yeah, the noise. What? I want that. Yes, and also the noise. You don't have the noise. You hear a small noise, but it's like, it seems like you're in a remote control car playing with a small car. So definitely the fuel engines for me.
Okay.
Okay. So I think that's it. Ted,
Yeah.
do you have any more questions?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so thank you for your time.
Thank you
Bye.
for all the time.
Anything you may need also, I'll be happy to help you, and I wish that I could help you now with this meeting. And please let me know, Afonso, if you need something more from my side, and also if you want a practical class, I'll be happy to show you how everything works. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.